Right. Welcome back after lunch, everybody. So we're going to get started with Dance next by Woerner, and I'll let her take it from there. And just know that after this, we will be splitting up into the two. Oh, no, sorry. I'm ahead of myself. Never mind. After this, we will be doing the interview with Dr. Boore-Clor and Laura Zeitlin. Okay, so take it away, Allie.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so thrilled to be here and to get to lead you in a sample of what we do in our Dance for Parkinson's classes. So as mentioned, my name is Allie. I know some of you, but not all of you. So hopefully the goal here is for you to, can you hear me okay? You can't hear me. You can't hear anything I'm saying. Okay, hold on. Hold tight. Is that better? Much better. It's too low. Okay, let's start over. Hi, everybody. Hey, oh, so much better. Okay, my name is Allie, and I am the founder and director of Take Root, which is a professional modern dance company. And we are active in the community and tour and dance and flip on our heads and all kinds of crazy stuff. But one of our forms of outreach is Dance for Parkinson's. So just to give you a 2-minute elevator spiel on what that means. We started it in 2014, and I went and got trained in Brooklyn, New York, where the Dance for PD program is originally located, and then came back and started monthly classes at Oakland University, which went off like a rocket, which was great. And now, fast forward to now, and we have a faculty of 5, and we are in Detroit, and we're at OPC 2 times a week in Rochester. We're at Oakland University once a month. We're in Southfield. So we're in a lot of different locations, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. But I want to get us moving. So what's special about Dance for Parkinson's, what we do, it's not just, you're not going to be Broadway stars. I'm sorry. That's not going to happen. We're kind of past our prime in that one. But what we're doing is getting our brain moving and getting our body moving together and creating movement together, which is really, really fun with some excellent music. Okay, so it's all feeling good, and there's no bar. The only thing I ask is that you show up, and that's it. And those that come to our class regularly or those that have come in on occasion can attest to that. So what I want you to do now is scoot your seat back away from your table a little bit, so that you can put your feet out in front of you, like as if you were going to touch out and come back in with your feet, if that's possible for you. And also to move your arms in a diagonal like this, without slugging the person next to you. I mean, if you mean to do that, that's not my bit. So just apologize just apologize now. That would probably be better. Okay? So we're going to start. I'm going to sit. Okay, and I'm going to talk you through. If you can't see my feet, I'll do it with my hands too, so you can see my hands, but don't do it with your hands, do it with your feet is the idea. I mean, I threatened to put the chair up here, and they said no. So, okay, so all you're going to do is put the ball of your foot and drop your heel. Ball of your foot and drop your heel, right? So if I was to do it with my hands, it would look like this. Ball of my foot, drop. Ball of my foot, drop. So you're doing it with your feet, okay, one at a time. So I've got ball, drop, ball of my foot, drop, ball of my foot, drop. Yes, just like that, okay? So we're going to do that 8 times, and I'll talk you through it. And then I'm going to do what we might call the mashed potato or the swivel, right, where I'm swiveling my foot and swiveling my leg, and then I bring it back in, and then I'm going to do the other side, okay, where I'm swiveling my foot and swiveling my leg and bring it back in. And then we'll repeat that all over again, okay? And then I'm going to do my arms. So what my arms are going to do is I'm going to grab and drop, grab and drop. So I'm just doing my arms, drop, grab, drop. I do this 8 times. Be very specific. I'm grabbing and dropping 8 times, okay? And then I'm going to reach low all the way up high. So imagine you're doing like a snow angel, but just the top of your body. Yes, big snow angel, and all the way back down. And then we'll repeat that all over again, okay? So now you've got your feet, and you've got your arms moving, and now we're going to put those 2 things together. So when I put the ball of my foot, I'm going to grab, drop, ball of my foot, and grab, and drop. We're going to do this together. There you go. You're doing it. Grab, and drop. Grab, and drop. Yes. And you know what's the best part about this entire thing is the ability to laugh at ourselves, because this is only the first 2 minutes of the class, and you're doing amazing. Okay, grab and drop. Yes, excellent. Now, when I swivel my foot, my arms are going to go up and back down. And then I do my other foot. I swivel my foot, my arms go up and back down. Exactly like that. Okay, so now we're going to put all that to music. Okay? Oh, yes. We're going to do some Harry Belafonte. Okay, so Eric, can you put on the Matilda song for me? Excellent. Oh, yeah. And you're welcome to sing. If you know the words, which I bet a lot of you do, you can sing with it. Okay? So here's our tempo is like this. So find your tempo with me. Yes, good. Now I'm going to start with just my feet, okay? Just the ball of my foot. Here you go. Ball, drop, step, heel, step, heel. Good. Do 4 more. Ball, heel, ball, heel, ball, heel. Excellent. Swivel your foot. Swivel. Yes. Now do the other side. Swivel. Excellent. Do that one more time. Just ball, heel, ball, heel, ball, heel, ball, heel. Good, everybody. Ball, heel, ball, heel, ball, heel. Yes, now swivel your foot. Swivel. Oh, yeah, we're starting to groove a little bit. I like it. Other side. All right, now we're going to do our arms. Ready? Grab and drop. Grab, drop. Grab, drop. Grab, drop. Good. 4 more. 1, 2, 3. Low to high, like your big snowflake, big snow angel. Back down. Again, low to high. Excellent. Grab and drop. Here we go. Grab, drop. Grab, drop. Good. 4 more. Grab, drop. Grab, drop. Grab. Low to high. Here we go. Big snow angel. Big, big, big. All the way up and all the way down. Excellent. Again. And down. Now all together. Ready? Here we go. Feet and hands. Ball, drop. All of it together. 4 more. 1. Good, everybody. All right. Swivel and low to high. Here we go. All the way up. Oh, yeah. Good. Other foot. Woo! One more time. Here we go. Drop. Ball heel with dropping. Good. Excellent. Here we go. Swivel with your arms going low. All the way up. Good, everybody. Another foot. All the way up. All the way down. Excellent. Really good. Okay, Eric. So that's an idea of how we're using our distal elements, which would be your hands and your feet, with rhythm, but we're also working on our dexterity with that. And this is all smoke and mirrors, right? Because I'm working on ball heel, but guess what? That's how I'm going to step up the stairs, or that's how I'm going to walk down the street. So all of this, hopefully when you leave here, you can all sing Matilda as you're walking out the door. It's going to help you as you're moving. I won't think anything about it. I sing it all day long. So it's great. Okay, we ready for another one? We got one more. I got enough time to do one more. Is that okay? Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to, again, break it down and then put it all together. Okay? So I'm going to put my arm out. Now, don't hit anybody. And back in. So it's going to be slow. And out, and back in. And now I'm going to do 4 fast. Out, in, out, in, out, in. Excellent. I'm going to do that same idea with my legs. Slow and in. Touch out. Slow and in. Now do 4 fast. Out, in, out, in. Excellent. Love it. Now put that together. Slow, both same arm as leg, like same side as body. And back in. And slow and back in. Now a little quicker. Out and in. Out. Look at you all. Out and in. I'm glad I'm after lunch. You're really awake. It's fantastic. Okay, and now we're going to go slow, open, both arms, and close. So what I like to say is lead and follow. So I'm going to lead with one leg and follow with the other one. So if that makes you move a little bit in your seat, like I'm doing, it might happen. And then I'm going to go back where I came from. Out and close, and out and close. Now, you get to throw 8 flowers any direction you want to. Throw them. Throw them. Any direction. Low, Hi, or you might see somebody across the room. Hey, here's my flower. Hey, Linda, catch my flower. There we go. Look at somebody and throw them flowers. We're going to gather all those flowers up, throw them really high, and let them fall down. Do it again. Gather all those flowers up, throw them up, and let them fall down. All right, we ready to do it with some music? Yeah. Yes. Okay, can we do tequila? That's a loaded question. The song. Let's do the song. I see how that sounded. There we go. Let's find this. Ooh, yeah. Little did you know you'd be doing this today, right? Good. Find that beat. Excellent. One more set. All right, so we're going to reach out with our arm first, okay? Let one more set go by. All right, here we go. Slow first. Here we go. Reach out. Out and in. Do your other side. Out. Now let's do 4 fast. 1, 2, 3. Good. Do the same thing with your legs. Slow and in. Slow and in. Now 4 fast. 1, 2, 3. Good. Put it together. Slow and in. Excellent. Slow and in. Now 4 fast. 1, 2, 3, 4. Open, close. Open, close. Open, close. Other way. Open, close. Excellent. We're going to throw 8 flowers. Ready? 1, 2. Really throw it. 3. Find somebody. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Gather them up. Gather it. Throw it. Watch them all fall down. Yes, do that again. Gather it up. Throw it. Let them all fall down. Excellent. Okay, Eric. Amazing. That was great. Oh, we like that one. All right, we got one more. We got one more. I'm getting you moving, right? I'm getting you moving. That's the idea. So that exercise, sometimes we do that standing, too, so we can work on some of our locomotor movements with stepping to a beat, but also with getting larger, right? So we really want to reach out. Okay, I got one more for you, okay? So we're going to tap our toes 8 times, okay? Just my toes. I'm tapping my toes 8 times. And then I'm going to tap my heels 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, you're going to reach way far out with your foot and drag it back in. So use your hamstring. Way far out, drag it back in. Way far out, drag it back in. Way far out, drag it back in. Now you got a little mambo, so I'm going to step to the side and back in. Step to the side. I'm going to use my arm and my leg. Side, back in. Good. Side, back in. My hands are going to be put on my knees, and my knees are going to open and close. I don't want to lose my microphone. Open and close 8 times, okay? So what happens is my toes go out, and then my knees are going to follow, and then I'm going to bring them back in. Out, in, out, in, out, in, 8 times like that, okay? That's 6 and 7 and 8. Now I'm going to do these little tiptoe steps, and I'm going to have my arms going like this. So I'm tiptoeing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now imagine somebody just dipped you, like I'm dancing with them and they dip me, so I'm going to move myself back and come back up. All right? Oh, yeah. And now I've got 8 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to throw my arms up. Oh, look at all you. That's fantastic. Throw my arms up. I'm going to kick one leg when I do it, and I'm going to yell, woo, when I do it. Ready? Woo! Oh, yeah. Then we're going to do all that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Dip. Come back up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to hear you. Woo! Yes. Okay. Can we do a little sing-sing? Yeah. Here we go. Tap your toes first 8 times, okay? Hear that? Oh, yeah. Find this beat for me. I think we all know this song, right? Nod your head. Yes, you do. All right, here we go. Tap those toes 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 heels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Reach way out with your foot. Out, drag it back in. Out, drag it back in. Reach out, drag it in. Reach out. Step to the side, little mambo. Out and in. Out and in. Good. Out and in. Hands on your knees. Open and close. Open, close. Open, close. Open, close. 4 more. 1, 2, 3. All right, little steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Lean it back. back and up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Get ready to yell. Woo! Oh, do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Lean it back. Back and up I go. Little steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Woo! Awesome. Thanks, Eric. We're good. All right. That was fantastic. Yay. Okay, so just to give you really fast. So all the stuff that we do in our classes, we have volunteers and I have assistants that are in there with me. So anybody that doesn't want to stand, we stay seated the whole time with them as examples. We stand up. Anything we do seated can be done sitting and vice versa. So there's never a reason why somebody can't join the class. Okay? There's always modifications that we can make and all kinds of stuff that we do to make sure that everybody feels included. So we've got brochures that are up over at the Michigan Parkinson table over there that look like this. One about our classes and different ways you can find all the different locations of where we are, and also the PD Expo that's coming up July 21st. There's a whole bunch of information about that that's happening at Oakland University with all different wellness activities, not just dance that's happening, okay? So if you want to ask me questions, you can find me, but I really loved moving with you today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. I'm excited for you. All right, thank you. I got to move my for you.
All right, now we'll get ready for our next interview about managing your mental health. We'll just give Laura Zeitlin and Dr. Boore-Clor a minute to get situated. Take your time. Oh, nope.
All right, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me? No? How about now? Can you hear me now? Is it on?
Let's see if we can turn the sound up a little bit.
How about now? Is that better? Okay. All right. So hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Laurie Boore-Clor. I'm from Henry Ford Health. I'm a geriatric psychiatrist, and I have the illustrious Laura with me. She'll introduce herself.
My name is Laura Zeitlin. I am a social worker and the coordinator for the DBS program at Michigan Medicine, and I also sit on the professional advisory board with Michigan Parkinson's Foundation.
Okay. You gotta talk to the microphone.
Sorry.
You gotta put it right to your face.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any outstanding questions there that you'd like to bring up for us to read and address? Or you can pass them to the side and then we'll go pick them up so you can maintain your anonymous status.
Do you want to start with those?
Yeah. So we have some from this morning. And interestingly, there are several questions about the same topic, so I'm going to go through them together, so that way they're all lumped together. See that one? Okay. So before we begin, I just want to let you know that mental health issues and Parkinson's are very, very, very prevalent. About 90% of people who have Parkinson's are going to have depression, anxiety, memory loss, hallucinations. To me, this is what I do all day. You are my people. If I know you and I take care of you, please don't break your privacy in front of everybody. Just keep it to yourself. But just know that this is what I do all day. There's not enough of me. I am in desperate need of help and partners. So if you know of anybody who is interested in being a physician, tell them to go into geriatric psychiatry, because I find it the most rewarding specialty. I mean, I just slipped right in and it was like a fish in water to me. But a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people don't like psychiatrists. A lot of people think we're magic and voodoo. A lot of people think that our medications are either worthless or going to kill somebody. So the spectrum of the stigma related to mental health care is quite extreme, and stigma kills because people who do not get treatment can commit suicide. They can increase their medical issues. It increases caregiver burden by a lot. Like caregivers are like, for every patient I have a caregiver patient. So that's why we exist, is to help make everybody's quality of life better. I once had a patient tell me, you know, Dr. Boore, you didn't save my life. Thanks. Well, he said, you saved my quality of life. He had had a string of heart attacks and all these medical problems, and he says, I felt like crap. I felt like crap every day. But you figured out I had depression. You got me on the right medication. You saved my quality of life. The gentleman went on to work for NASCAR at the age of 75 in the pits. And I was like, that is a great example of positive aging, because at 75, everybody thinks you should be retired. But he finally was working his dream job because he felt better. So I never saw him much again because he was too busy for me.
I wonder if we could start with one question. So we were going to dive into questions, but I think a really good sort of foundation for the question and answer would be if we could talk a little bit about psychiatry versus therapy, because I think that can be really confusing for folks sometimes.
Okay, yes. One of the biggest questions in mental health is, what is the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist and a therapist? And it's like an egg and a truck. So the psychologists are experts in research. They're experts in therapists. They go to undergrad and get a bachelor's degree. They go to graduate school, and they either get a master's in social work or a PhD in psychology. There are some ABPPs, which I don't understand what that is, but they're PhD level psychologists too. They do research, they do therapies, they do not do medication, they do not do medical exams, they do not do things like that. Psychiatrists are physicians, first and foremost. We go to college, we get our bachelor's degree, we go to medical school for 4 years. So when I started here at Henry Ford, I did a presentation in which I called out every single person in the department that I went to medical school with, because a bunch of other people called me a psychologist. I said, no, I went to medical school. I didn't go to graduate school. But even within medicine, there's confusion. So after medical school, we get our MD, some people get a DO, and then after that, you have to do a residency. And that is 3 to 13 years after all of that already. I only did 4. I did 4 years of residency in psychiatry, did 1 more year in a geriatric psychiatry fellowship. My friends that do reproductive endocrine medicine did 13 years after. My friends that did orthopedics did 5 years after. My family medicine friends did 3 years. So depending on what the specialty is how long your residency will be. And then some of us get suckered into another year of postgraduate training. But I said, I can deal with the elderly people every day for 1 whole year. Sign me up. I said, how can I get involved in this? Because this will be great. Nobody wants to do this. It's job security, and it's the best population to work with. I'm no fool. So I signed up. I think it's the best thing ever. But people still get us confused. So I have had people who come into my office who are having a heart attack. I have had a guy on the video start to have a stroke. I have had people who are delirious from bladder infections, from pneumonia, in with me. I have to do the physical exam. I have to know what's going on. I have to get them the next level of treatment. In the past, I have delivered babies. No. That was gross. So I knew I didn't want to be an OBGYN. And then I worked in the emergency room. Don't like the gunshot wounds. Don't like the person's having a heart attack right now thing. This is okay, this is too much stress, I can't do this. So I have rotated through every specialty, and I said, I want to do psychiatry, but I want to take care of the over 60 crowd, or the early onset Parkinson's crowd. Those are my people. Psychologists can do that too. They can specialize, but they don't have a formal training after that unless it's substance abuse. So that's what makes us different. So I do medical exams, I do medications, I can comment on somebody's high blood pressure medication, but a psychologist can and should not because they don't have the background. But the tricky part comes in is we're good listeners. So people will say, my Dr. Boore, she's a really great listener. She's an excellent therapist. I'm like, thanks. Because thanks for that, I appreciate that I'm a good listener, but I'm not a therapist. We do learn therapy in our residency because we have to know who we're referring to. So the neurologists understand what they're getting into when they refer somebody to physical therapy for neuropathy or for Parkinson's or gait or whatever. They know what the physical therapist is going to do. That's why we know about psychotherapy, is because I know who to send them to for what. There's many different forms of psychotherapy, from cognitive behavioral to dialectical behavior, and they're all about changing thought patterns. The experts in that are the therapist, the psychologist, or the social workers, and that's what makes us different. But we know what's going on in that world because we have the training, even though we don't do it every day.
Great. Did you want to jump into that?
Okay. So I have a couple questions here, and there are some themes which I find very interesting. So I have 3 questions here about depression. So I'm just going to read the questions, and I'm just going to answer them all in a bunch. So one of them is, how do you recognize when depression and anxiety are biologically related to Parkinson's or are caused by something behavioral? What is the best way to handle depression when the patient is in denial? And what % of people have depression? But the one that broke my heart was, how can I best care for my husband when he's feeling depressed? Because that tells me there's a caregiver doing the best they can, and we need to help them too. But for the % of people that have depression, within Parkinson's, 38% are diagnosed within the first year. 90% of patients with Parkinson's will be diagnosed and treated for depression. Depression is as much a part of Parkinson's as motor symptoms are, because I always see the Parkinson's brain is evolving. It is constantly changing. Sometimes it's week to week, month to month, and then the end-stage Parkinson's, it's day to day. And most people with Parkinson's have depression because of the way the brain is changing, not because of they have the disease. They don't say, oh, I have Parkinson's, so man, this sucks. Now I'm depressed. No, this is not how it goes. It's the brain is making them depressed. So their depression is different from the younger crowd. The younger crowd or the non-Parkinson's crowd will say, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I don't want to do anything, I sleep too much, I eat too much, I don't eat at all, I can't sleep at all, I hate myself, suicidal. That's what the younger crowd says. The Parkinson's crowd and the older crowd says, I'm fine. I don't feel depressed. I'm still doing all my things. I eat okay. I sleep okay. But I'm helpless. I'm hopeless. I'm such a burden to my spouse. There's no way out. I should just kill myself. And it's like, whoa. This is easily treatable. It is incredibly easily treatable. My presentation over there next door was about how I use the medications I do for the younger crowd with different dosing strategies, with different strengths. So for example, the maximum dose of sertraline, which is Zoloft, by the FDA is 200 milligrams. My people with Parkinson's don't ever touch 200 because their systems can't handle it. They take 12.5. They take 25 milligrams. They're cured. They're better. They don't have that sense of hopelessness and dread anymore. So it's very easily treatable. How do you handle depression when somebody is in denial? This has been one of our toughest challenges too, is because it's kind of like when you have food stuck in your teeth. Everybody else can see it but you. So everybody else can see you're depressed. Everybody else can see that you're not yourself. But I'm fine. I don't see anything wrong. There's nothing wrong here. What I always tell people is make us the bad guy. Tell me, Dr. Boore wants to see you. She's just concerned about how you're doing. Or, your neurologist has a friend in the department that needs patients. So we're just going to go fill up her clinic schedule, whatever it takes. But sometimes, with being in geriatrics, medication regimens get very complicated. So I'm one of the first doctors that will look at that and say, you don't need this, you don't need this. So I'm also the cost-saving doctor because I will tell you what medications you really don't need anymore. So a lot of people like that because they're on a fixed income. They already feel that they take too much medication already. And then I can say, well, I can swap these 3 out for this antidepressant. So sometimes that's how I get them in. Another is plant a seed. Plant a seed that, this is treatable. This is not a death sentence. It does not have to be like this forever, even though it seems like that. Depression's pretty terrible. But it doesn't have to be like that forever. Sometimes a patient or a person or your loved one will just never come and see somebody like me. Part of it is because they don't want to, part of it they don't see the need to, and part of it is there's one of me for 6,000 of you. So it's extremely hard to get into us. So what we end up doing is consulting with the primary care doctor or the neurologist. So many of you know Dr. Farzel. She just asked me, because it's taking so long, what can she do? And I said, start a medicine. Start a medicine, refer to therapy. You're buying me 6 to 8 weeks to get them in, and I can see if that medicine is the one or if it's not. I said, that way, we're doing something to get this person better. How do we care for our loved ones when they're depressed? Just be there. Don't force them into treatment. Don't yell at them. Don't nag them. I mean, that's the one. I always see one spouse nagging the other, you should have been here 5 years ago. We all know that, but it's taken them this long to come to terms, but they need to come see me. Now is not the time to blow it. So just be there. Just say that we're available to them, that their primary care doctor is available to them. Encourage them to seek help. If they absolutely won't because of a memory problem and they don't know that they need help, that's when we get social workers involved. That's when we get primary care involved to say, okay, your treatment is going to be a little bit different because now do we need power of attorney because you don't know how bad things are and we need to take care of you to take care of you.
Can I jump in with one of the things you said in the session that you did before was that motor symptoms don't worsen depression, but depression can worsen motor symptoms. And that really stuck for me.
Okay.
I think that's a lot of times I hear from the folks that I work with that, I'm only depressed because my symptoms interfere. And I think that speaks to your point about the brain is changing and we have to treat that aspect as well. And the other thing I wanted to point out was one of the things you said to the neurologist was start this regimen and get them into therapy. And I think sometimes people are a little resistant to do therapy because they don't necessarily understand that medication and therapy together can be such a powerful combination for treatment.
Yes, we always say 1 + 1 is 3 because the research out there for that statement is one of the most solid things we have in psychiatry is if you do medications, you do okay. If you do therapy, you do okay. If you do both of them, good luck, we never see you again because you're doing so well, because you've got your life back, your activities back. So we always say it's so much better. It's kind of like if you have hip or knee surgery and you don't go to physical therapy after, why did you have the surgery? So that's what we say. The medications are great, but come on, we've got all these services, all this extra help, all this evidence-based research to show us and support us in exactly that.
Yeah, great.
Anything else?
I want to make sure we answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have here another one. I got a lot of caregiver questions, and I know Sean talked to you, so I want to make sure that you know about Sean Bennis and the caregiver program and the Alzheimer's Association. Any caregiver that's struggling, reach out to those two because they're phenomenal. So this one says, as a caregiver, how do we handle a situation when the person is doing a task they cannot do and refuse your help? So that's, again, 2 different realities. The person that's doing the thing they shouldn't do knows they can do it. They can do it just fine, thank you very much. They don't need your help. Whereas you, on the other hand, are like, that's not good. This is not going to end well. They should not be doing that. It's very frustrating because the realities are very different. I always say divert as much as you can. So some people like to cook, and they shouldn't be cooking. So don't stand in front of the stove. Have them cut up the vegetables, have them wash the vegetables, have them do grocery shopping, or read the recipes. That way they're still involved in cooking, but they're not in a dangerous position in front of the fire or walking away from the stove. Sometimes it's just planting a seed of, I need help with this, so I'm going to get extra help from the home. When you really don't. You as a caregiver are just fine, but then that way the other person can support you in getting more help. But again, this is a very wonderful question and direction for anybody involved in caregiving, like Sean or Brandy's not there. Brandy's, the Alzheimer's Association is really good at that stuff. It's actually on their website. They have a whole bunch of stuff for caregivers. So I'm going to leave that for the end. Impulse control disorders and implications for Parkinson's patients. Okay, these are extremely common. If you have impulse control disorders within the context of Parkinson's, it's really common. It's like textbook. So it's not that it's not, it's normal. It's normal for Parkinson's if it happens. It's not, to us, a shock. We kind of expect this, that's why we ask about it. They're very common and they're very treatable. Sometimes people need medications, like naltrexone. Naltrexone was designed for pathological gambling, but for alcoholism, because alcoholism is another impulsive thing, and it actually helps people slow their drinking down or cut it down, and some people can actually just quit. So if they were drinking a case a day, now they maybe have 3 a day, 3 beers a day, and that's way better. It's called harm reduction, because the amount of harm has come down, but they're still drinking. There's another one, atomoxetine, which is a non-stimulant for ADHD. That's been shown to help too. But again, it's another medicine. And then people with Parkinson's will say, I take enough medication as it is. I don't want to take more. But one of the easiest things to do without this is actually therapy. There are structured therapies, and I say it's easy because you go in and you check these boxes in the protocol. Did I do this? Did I do that? Okay. It changes the thinking. It gives people other activities to do instead of compulsive buying, compulsive shopping, things like that. So very common, very treatable. Don't be embarrassed about symptoms that pop up in Parkinson's. We have heard them all. There's no surprises. We have heard them all. Do you have a question back there? CBD oil for depression is loaded. Because CBD products are not regulated by the FDA, you don't know if that's really what you're getting. So people may be selling you olive oil. They may be selling you who knows what. If it's true CBD oil for depression and verified as best as you could possibly verify it, it's still a gamble because it may have traces of THC. It can make depression worse. It can make it better, it can make anxiety worse, and it can bring on psychosis, which we're already running the risk of in Parkinson's. So I always tell my patients, don't try it because you don't know what you're going to get into. Some people have already tried it by the time they get to me, and it's either worked or not worked. So it's a big gamble.
I'm not sure if I understood what you said a minute ago. Are there certain classes of antidepressants and anti-anxiety that are better for Parkinson's patients and certain classes that are worse?
Oh, I wish I had my presentation from next door up here. Yes and no. It's the dose. It's the dose that is the poison. Whatever that old Greek guy that said that, it's the dose that's the poison. Because I have patients, and not to throw any other specialists on the bus, but the neurologists and the primary care doctors come after me anytime I prescribe an antipsychotic because they say you're going to block their motor system and you're going to make their motor systems worse. Like, no, because we don't have anything FDA approved for depression or anxiety and Parkinson's. We have to use all of our regular stuff, but we have to tinker it and tailor it. Because if you've met one person with Parkinson's, you've met one person with Parkinson's. So we use the usual suspects that are out there, like the Zoloft, the Prozac, the Buspar. But for example, like Zoloft is a 200 milligram max at the FDA dose. That's all they tell us we can use safely. And then like I said, I don't get there because the systems are so different that I use the geriatric dosing of 12.5 or 25 milligrams, and I still creep up on schedule. But I have to watch for extra side effects. I have to watch for extra sensitivities, and I don't want to rush it because when I'm 6 weeks out on titrating that medication up, Parkinson's is changing on me. So that's why we have a lot of frequent appointments, is because I don't want to make things worse. So we use stuff that's already out on the market, just on the geriatric dosing on a geriatric schedule. So there's no absolute no for Parkinson's. One of my favorite medications for schizophrenia is haloperidol. I love that. I even have a coffee mug, how much I love it. It's very effective, it's very safe, but it's got a very negative reputation because all these other beautiful, more appropriate medications have come out, and the drug companies have told us those are better. They're not any better. But with that one, for schizophrenia, I use 20 milligrams. But if I have somebody who's got Parkinson's and is hallucinating and nothing else is working, I can use 0.25 milligrams 3 times a day. So they will never see the 20, they will never see 5 milligrams because the dosing, because of the motor systems and everything else, has to be tailored to the patient. I have another question here. Oh, do you have one?
Oh, I was gonna ask if you could talk a little bit about like delirium versus dementia and helping people understand that.
Okay, so there's a question about delirium versus dementia, and this is my bread and butter. Do this all day too. Delirium is a medical emergency, and I have to stress that because any psychiatric symptom can show up in delirium. We have hallucinations, both auditory and visual. We have depression. We have what's called hyperactive delirium, where this is what most people think of as people in the hospital are ripping out their lines, they're attacking the nurses, they're trying to run away, they're not redirectable. This is the most argumentative, worst patient we've ever had. And then you have the hypoactive patients who just lay there. They're the easiest patients in the world. They're not saying anything, they're not really interacting, they're really recovering well. But they're not responding, they're not talking to you, they're not eating, they're not participating. So we have this exact opposite extremes, sometimes in the same patient in the same hour, because delirium is fluctuating. It fluctuates so fast that if I go in and talk to a patient, and I walk out like, oh boy, we've got to get some extra help in here. And then extra help, like Laura comes along or a nurse comes along, and they're like, what are you talking about, Dr. Boore? They're fine. They just told me the date, they told me where they are, and then I go back in and I see, oh yeah, they're good. Give it 10 minutes, we go back in, and they're back to ripping out the lines, wanting to go home. That's how fast it can change. Like I said, any psychiatric symptom can show up. I can't do my job until we figure out what it is, because if it's a bladder infection and I'm trying to treat hallucinations with my beloved Haldol, we're going to be doing that till they die, because the bladder infection is causing inflammation. The inflammation has gone to the brain. The brain is spinning with all its different neurotransmitters, and it's really like a neurotransmitter storm. All these brain chemicals are now unregulated. So that's how we get the symptoms that we get. But I can't fix up here until we fix down here, because it's just going to keep fueling that inflammation. So once the bladder infection or the pneumonia or whatever it is, sepsis, is clear, I'm good to go, because I can say, okay, we're treating this problem. Now the symptoms are something psychiatric, and I can work with that and choose different medications if needed. Most of the time with delirium, if you treat the underlying cause and you keep them on a sleep-wake schedule, you make sure they know what day it is, you have somebody with them to talk with them, I don't need to be involved. That's why I get really upset at the hospital sometimes, because they're like, they're still hallucinating. Like, yes, because you didn't follow our recommendations. You know, well, they have schizophrenia overnight. You don't get schizophrenia overnight. That's just not how it works. But other medical specialties just don't see it like we do. And they go to the same medical school I do. But, so to me, delirium is very frustrating. The difference with dementia is progressive, it's gradual. It starts with memory loss, because delirium is anything and everything. So delirium is hallucinations, depression, behavioral disturbances, agitation, physical violence. Dementia starts with memory. It starts gradual, gradual, gradual. The trick is they merge. People who have dementia or memory issues are more prone to getting delirium because their brain is evolving and changing, so they're more vulnerable to inflammation. So they're so much more vulnerable that we worry about them. That sometimes with my patients, I'll say, your loved one has dementia. These are the things that dementia is supposed to do. If any of these things happen that are not supposed to happen, that is not dementia. That is delirium. They have to go to the emergency room. This is a medical emergency. Let no one tell you otherwise. And if they give you any crap, tell them to call me. Because I've had that. ER doctors are like, well, you told your patient that we should call you. Yes, I said, because the patient himself or herself can't tell them the past 3 weeks. They can't tell them the past 5 years. I've got that data. They need to know that this is not a pleasant little old lady who's got dementia, who's having a carnival down the street that doesn't really exist. This is my functioning school teacher who still drives, who goes back and forth every day to take care of her grandmother. That's not the same woman. So when it comes up as this is not the same person, that's a delirium. But with dementia, we have to make sure that we know that it's gradual and it's progressive. I am so insistent on everybody knowing delirium because 90% of people who are untreated will die. That's how bad delirium is. So, but I don't mess around with delirium.
Nope.
Okay. So then this leads us into a good one. Confusion. Is that the start of dementia, or is dementia common in Parkinson's? So this is a yes and no. Confusion at any point in life scares people because they think, oh no, I've got dementia. And not necessarily. When you see somebody who evaluates for dementia, right off the bat, they ask you all kinds of questions about your functioning. They ask you all kinds of questions about your memory. Then they start asking you about your health. They ask you about your medications. They ask you about drinking, alcohol, recreational drugs, stuff that other doctors won't ask you about because they don't want to, they don't have time, or they just don't know. But we will ask all kinds of really nosy questions. Sometimes people are like, wow, that was personal. I need to know. I need to know everything because sometimes something minor in their life is causing confusion or memory problems. Sleep apnea is one of the biggest causes of confusion in older adults. It's also one of the least treated because we don't catch it. We just say, oh, well, they're supposed to have depression. Oh, they're supposed to have memory loss. No, there is no normal bad thing for getting older. Everybody says, oh, I should have that because I'm old now. No, you should not. You should bring everything up. So confusion does not have to be dementia. It can be something like sleep apnea, which is fixable through the sleep clinic. Sometimes people need a CPAP machine or a device or some kind of other sleep strategy. Sometimes it's their medications. I had to take Zylol once for allergies. And I always learned that antihistamines are one of the most memory-modifying medications out there. I couldn't tell you my name. I had short-term memory loss. I put my wedding ring on the coffee pot. Why I put my wedding ring on the coffee pot, I will never figure out. But I tipped the house over looking for my wedding ring. It's on the coffee pot. I don't remember putting it there. And my husband's like, how long do you have to take this for? So when I had my own firsthand experience, I was like, everybody's off Zylol. Everybody's off antihistamines except during allergy season, or can we work with an allergist to find something else? Because I was like, wow, that was exactly what they've been telling me all these years. So no, confusion does not have to be the start of dementia and Parkinson's. However, just so you know the statistics, about 30% of the people who have Parkinson's will have dementia. Every year, 10% of the people who do not have dementia will convert to dementia. So this is actually one of the lowest psychiatric symptoms that we have in Parkinson's because 90% look at depression, 90% look at anxiety, but only 30% are getting memory problems. That's pretty good. But then is it the Parkinson's? No, it's just getting older. That you do lose some memory functions as you get older, like the ability to multitask. It just does not go like you want it to anymore. But your vocabulary gets better. It probably gets more colorful too. But you have so many other aging benefits that this gets canceled out. This is one of the least things you have to worry about. The other question on this card is, anxiety seems increased. What would you suggest? Very rigid thinking. I see this every day. So this is, why is anxiety getting worse? Is it a medication? Is it a health issue? Is it tremors that are uncontrolled? I have a lot of patients, I can see their tremors. And on the video, it's been actually not too good for me because I get this much. So until they actually pick up their coffee, I don't even know they have Parkinson's. But when I see them in the office, I can see it. But on the video, I can't. So I'll ask them, well, do you have internal tremors? Because some people have truncal tremors that we can't see. Even if we're doing a physical exam, we cannot see those tremors. But they're shaking on the inside. I just feel so nervous. I have butterflies in my stomach all day. And like, that's not my anxiety. That's motor anxiety. So then we ask the neurologist to help with that. If it's my anxiety, medications and therapy. But we don't always throw medications out first. We try to do environmental things, like modifying our environment. Have you tried all these other things? Are you getting good sleep? Have you been able to outsource what you can? Are you exercising? Exercising is the one thing that crosses all body systems and improves all body systems. So I tell everybody, exercise as best you can, as safely as you can. And then COVID kind of knocked out my last one of activities, because when people are more socially involved, they're better off in terms of their mood. There are some people who have been always reclusive, and they're okay with it. This just leaves them be. They're just reclusive. They like it like that. Other people have been the life of the party, and that's how they are, and they like it like that. And that's fine. You just have to meet people where they are. Usually, they marry each other. So I've had a lot of people who retire, and and it always goes like this, and not to pick on either of them, but the wife drags the husband in and says, he watches TV all day. And I'm like, okay. So then I asked the husband, I said, you watch TV all day? He goes, yeah. Do you know what's on TV? There's Hulu, and there's Disney Plus, and I found this National Geographic, and then the news at 5, 6, 7, and 10 o'clock. You know, they are in front of the TV because they are getting entertained. And I've discovered that, not to be stereotypical, but this generation and older, the women stayed home more, and the men were out working. So there is data that shows that when the men retired, they want to stay home now. They're done. They're done with the outside world. They are done with everything. They just like to stay home, do their relaxing activities, and TV is one of them. It's like, okay, as long as they are not sitting there because they're avoiding things, or the TV is watching them, have at it. Have at it because you're getting your entertainment and your enjoyment, and you can enjoy your retirement. But so research has shown that women who were mostly the homemakers, this generation, not my generation, your guys' generation and older, they stayed home. So now when they retire and the kids are grown, I can do all these things. I can go be on the knitting group. I can go be on the church group. We're going to this place. We're going to this place. And the husband's like, I'm not going. I've been out my whole life. So this actually kind of happened with my parents. It was funny. They both worked for General Motors. My dad worked on the line on the assembly plant. My mom was the secretary at the corporate headquarters. So my mom moved into the Rensen. She did not like it because that building is swaying in the wind, and she's like, whoa, you look out the window, you see clouds. And then 9/11 happened. So they said, anybody in the tall buildings, you need to evacuate. So she ran down the stairs as fast as she could, and she ran all the way to Wayne State so I could drive her home. So that's quite a distance. But she said, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I got 30 whatever years. I'm retiring. So she had the best boss. Her boss said, who was also female, and there are gender differences here. She said, Laurie, you can't just retire. She goes, you've been working for 30 years. We have to transition you over. Okay, so she transitions a couple hours down. She picks up water aerobics. She a couple hours down, knitting group, church group, this thing, that thing. So when she retired, April, she had this whole world in front of her. She had her friends. She had her activities. She used to make us write our schedules out. She hung them in the cupboards so she could say, 2 o'clock on a Friday, Laurie's in this class. She should be home by 3. Okay. So then we said, Mom, we don't know where you are. Like, are you dead in a ditch? Are you out with your friends? I was like, well, you can't do this. And she said, well, I'm retired now. I can do what I want. So So she made us a schedule. So Wednesday night at 6 was book club. Thursday night at 4 was knitting. So like, okay, that's where Mom is. She's not hiding out. So then my dad, who was like a human machine working on the assembly line, literally putting windshields in the cars, says, she's having too much fun without me. Because I think I'm going to retire too. June 1st, he walks into the office at General Motors and says, I'm retiring. They said, well, Mr. Boore, you can't just retire. You have to fill out the paperwork. We have to process it. Fine. He comes home and he works second shift. So he told us on the weekend because he would work till like midnight, be sleeping, and then he'd sleep in the morning. We'd already be gone at school. So he comes on Saturday morning and goes, I'm retiring. My sisters and I and my mom just went, oh God, help us. Like, he cannot retire. Because he didn't know what to do with himself, because all he ever did was work. He had no friends by choice, just us and my mom. He had no activities. He had nothing but work. But because working second shift, it's hard to have friends and activities, because your world is not everybody else's world. So we always said, Dad, we'll get you a car, a hobby car you can work on in the garage. And we're like, I'm in medical school. I can't afford this. My sister's in college. She can't afford this. Like, what are we going to do? It was terrible because he started following us around everywhere we went. And he's like, hey, guess what? I got this nut. And I'm like, oh, my God. He's talking about nuts and bolts. We're talking about little nuts and bolts right now. And I've got a test on Friday. I'm going to fail in med school. And I learned if I went in the basement and study, he wouldn't follow. So he'd go after my sister. She'd turn on to our other sister. And then it would just keep going from there. So we finally figured out he needs something to do. So the neighbor said, hey, guess what? He's retired now. He can fix up our house. Gave him a key to the house, gave him a list of chores every week, said, give us the receipts at the end of the week on what you fixed. So I'm like, oh, where's Dad? Oh, he's at the neighbor's house fixing it up. Oh, he's down the street mowing their lawn, mowing their lawn, mowing their lawn, mowing their lawn. And one of his friends had Parkinson's. And this was before Cinemet. So the gentleman used to mow the lawn. He should not have been mowing the lawn. So if my dad would hear the machine, my dad has a machine hearing. You know how they hear the machines and they know whose lawnmower it is? He goes, oh, crap, Ken's mowing his lawn. So he goes out, there's Ken on the grass with a lawnmower going down. And so he picks him up, puts him in a chair, calls his wife and tells on him, and then inherits Ken's lawn. So now he's got 3 lawns. So then, okay, now we're doing the whole thing of where's Dad? So Dad built up his retirement dynasty after he retired, which was stressful. But that happens a lot with men and women. Before women retire, they build up their retirement dynasty before, so they're ready to go segue, transition into something. Men, it's like this. It's just, I'm done, I'm retired. But that's where I always ask them, what were they like before? Because like my dad doesn't have any friends. He's not hanging out with his friends now because he doesn't have any. So my mom says, you should get some friends. Well, I don't want any. So that's why we like to have family in with our appointments, because if this guy came in and he says, I watch TV and cut lawns all day, I'd be like, that doesn't sound too good, but that's what he likes to do. So we have to meet the patients where they are. Activities in retirement. You need to keep busy, but not too busy.
One of the things that struck me was that you mentioned watching TV all day, and I definitely hear that from the folks that I work with. But more often I'm hearing, sorry. Oh my gosh.
Hey, you want mine?
I think it died.
Gotta be up.
Oh my gosh.
Got it. We're almost out of time.
I don't know.
No, you're good.
I'll
Here.
try to project. One of the things that I hear from the folks that I work with a lot is sitting in front of the TV all day, but not necessarily being entertained by the TV, but sitting in front of the TV and conking out, just sort of sleeping in front of the TV. And those are the times when I'm talking to folks that I think this isn't really entertainment. This is, are they sleeping enough at night? Are they just not stimulated? Do we need, like you're saying, more activities? Because there isn't anything kind of keeping me engaged with the world around me. So I think we do want to respect that some folks just really enjoy TV, but if they're sleeping in front of the TV, that's when we want to look at alternative options that might be more entertaining, might be more stimulating.
Out of time?
both for talking about this very important topic. Did you have any final comments?
I don't have any final comments other than to say that we are here. But unless you come, we don't know. So don't be shy, don't be afraid, don't think that you're going to be judged harshly. We are doctors, we are here to help you. We have a whole team of therapists and people like Laura that help us. So it can make your life so much better if you are having something and you can reach out to us.
Sure.
I don't know if it's too general, but generally, would we get a referral from the internal medicine?
I hate to say this, but it depends on your insurance company because they run the world. So you have to ask them if you need a referral. Sometimes your primary care doctor will do it. Sometimes I've had people just show up and call my office and they get in. So it depends on the insurance.
Wonderful. All right, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And we've got a break scheduled at this time, but I'd love to just open it up to one of our board members, the president of our board and the president of our professional advisory board, Dr. Jason Schwalb, would like to share with you a little bit about a gene therapy study that I think is going to be really helpful for everyone. So I'm going to welcome him to the stage. If you need to stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, anything like that, go ahead and do it. But please listen to this little presentation before we do our final breakout.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristen. It's really nice to see everyone here for this great event, and thanks to Julia and Peter LeWitt and Kristen for putting this together. I did just want to let people get aware. I know the two breakout sessions, one's on clinical research, one's on DVS. This sort of bridges the two because it's kind of similar. It's a research study. We're at Henry Ford. We are a site for a 5-center trial that is a randomized, double-blind, sham-controlled study to assess whether gene therapy for Parkinson's disease is effective. Is this a slideshow? Yeah. 1 second. I don't know what she. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's right there. This one right here. Yeah, yeah. That's fine. No, start slide center. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we are doing a gene therapy trial for Parkinson's disease with AAV. This is the title of the trial. The study sponsor is a company called Meira. And this is the idea. So as many of you know, one of the primary targets for deep brain stimulation is part of the brain called the subthalamic nucleus. That nucleus is kind of on overdrive. It sends out stimulatory signals. And this gene therapy is to try and change those neurons in the subthalamic nucleus from being excitatory to being inhibitory. And we've actually did this before. This is a paper that we published in 2011 with pretty much the same gene product in an earlier iteration. Unfortunately, that company went bankrupt, and now it's just being revived now, or another company bought the IP, and it's just being revived now 15 years later. You see the first author on this paper in Lancet Neurology was Peter LeWitt, who's well known. So this is the study design. In general, we're talking about patients who would be candidates for deep brain stimulation. We're at 4 different sites with 14 different patients being enrolled. There's some screening. There's a fair amount of participation that patients are compensated for their time and travel, but there are frequent visits, and there are benefits to being in research studies, as you're going to hear in some of the other discussions today, in terms of getting kind of extra attention and having multiple people kind of looking after you. That's true in many studies, and there's a total of 5 years of follow-up. That doesn't mean you're there every day. So in the original trial, we actually did this where we were faking doing the surgery. The patients are awake in the operating room. They think they're getting the full surgery. They're not. We're playing recordings of what these areas of the brain sound like. We did this successfully. Some of the patients are getting the same dose as they got in that trial over 10 years ago. And then there's some data from primates and from one of the patients from the last trial that higher doses may be more effective, and so there are patients getting a high dose. And for patients who are randomized to the sham group, they have an opportunity later to get the real gene product, similar to what we did last time. So objectives and endpoint, the primary objective is safety. This is research, so I can't tell you that it's going to work. That's why we're doing it. But then the other things we're going to look at, and I expect we'll probably find similar results to when we did this over 10 years ago, is that patients do get benefits that are somewhat similar to what we see with patients who are getting DBS, but they don't have hardware. They don't have to go through multiple bouts of reprogramming and visits for reprogramming. They get the gene product, and then that's it. And both sides are done, which is not an option if you're doing focused ultrasound, pallidotomy, or thalamotomy, or things like that. So for the entry criteria, the inclusion criteria, you have to actually have Parkinson's disease and not one of the Parkinson's plus syndromes. All the patients are getting a PET study, which there's good evidence from the research group that this can help make sure the patient has garden variety Parkinson's disease and not a Parkinson's plus syndrome. And they have to be on stable medications and for some period of time. And they have to be severe enough. If your Parkinson's disease is very mild, we're not going to be able to see a treatment effect. And they have to be on stable medications and agree not to undergo deep brain stimulation for at least 6 months. Patients who don't have garden variety Parkinson's disease, have any history of brain surgery, or other things that would be problematic, you're not candidates. Patients who are very depressed. Patients, there is no real, haven't seen any concerns in the patients that we did a decade ago or in lab studies that there would be some concern with an immune reaction. It's a pretty benign virus that gets used in a lot of different gene therapy trials, but we're still trying to limit any issues with the immune system by not including patients who have problems with their immune system. And then these are the study visits. So there's screening, there's day of surgery, and then there's follow-up a couple weeks later, a month later, week 12, week 19, and week 26. So that's all I have to say. So if you're interested in participating, you can just take a picture with your phone. Our study coordinator is B, and this is her number. Or you can contact me directly, or go through MPF, and they can get you in touch with me or with the study coordinator. So thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, I can try and answer them.
My brother had a DBS surgery last 25 years. Dr. John, who was a surgeon.
Yeah.
Is a good candidate for this kind of treatment?
Yeah, so the question was whether someone who had DBS 25 years ago could be a candidate for this treatment. I would say generally they wouldn't be a candidate for this trial, even if the trial were successful and got approved by the FDA. I'm not sure that he would be a candidate. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thanks so much for your time.
And if you have any other specific questions for Dr. Schwalb, he's just sitting in the back over there. And this is actually a perfect segue to our final breakout session of the day. So in this room, we're going to be doing a discussion on research with Quest Research, Dolly, Niles. So what's coming down the pike, what you can be a part of, how you can be a part of it. And then in the Marquette room, when you come out of this room directly to the right, we're going to be doing a panel on DBS. So you can hear from others, explore if that's something that might be right for you. So if you'd like to go to that discussion, make your way right now. Otherwise, sit tight in this room, and Dolly and her team are going to come up. I just have to open her video too, and then I'll let you do whatever you got to do. I saw she put it in there.
Is it just a link to a video, or is it the actual video
Ooh,
itself?
that's a good question.
It
Link
is
to the.
It's a video. Okay, so it's just gonna play offline.
I don't know that these are different. Yeah, I guess they are different.
Okay. So let's do this from here.
I'm just gonna get out of a lot of these really quick because I have an insane amount of tabs up. All right. Okay. All right. So hopefully that's good enough.
Is we're gonna
Okay.
Take this guy. We're just gonna disembody it.
Okay.
Take this one. What? That's all right. Where's the other one?
There you go.
There you go. Disembody it real quick.
Okay.
Close this. To try to put these together. There we go. We're going to right click. Hello, maybe. Man, these are angry little laptops.
Yeah, I always feel like that. DBS, I'm sorry about that. And sorry, I didn't explain. DBS, the DBS panel, is deep brain stimulation. If deep brain stimulation is something you're interested in, then you can go to that room over there. DBS, deep brain stimulation. Oh, you're good. Okay. Yep. Yeah. And I have found you have to come right up to your base. Right down here.
I already just extended it. Yeah, they're gonna be able to play the video. Yeah, just should. So for your videos,
Yeah.
what you're gonna do is you're just gonna hold Alt, hit Tab,
Oh,
and
God.
that's gonna be right there.
Oh, it's the second video, not the first. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
She has two.
So what happens is when you hit that, it's gonna bring it up over there.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
So you want the other one first.
I don't know that I'm going to need to because I don't have that many people in the room. So I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, let's not worry about it. Let's just do it and we'll do this interview part. Okay? Yeah, thanks. Should we start? Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Dolly. I'm with Quest Research. I have a lovely panel here. So we had, we're modifying a little bit on our presentation because earlier in the morning, if you were here first thing, Dr. Ellen Bogan really did a very lovely presentation on all of the medications and treatments that are currently being researched. And I like to share, so I've been with Quest Research about 17 years. We started really doing obesity trials and diabetes treatments. So we moved into doing neurology treatments about year 2000 with Dr. Peter Lewitt, and Dr. Ellen Bogan was a new fellow really at that time. Since then, the Parkinson's pipeline treatments has grown more than any other than oncology. And I don't really know if people with Parkinson's really understand how wonderful that is, to have a diagnosis that, and we've talked about how the challenge that it brings for a person that's with that diagnosis and their family, that there is significant work being done in really novel ways, specifically for Parkinson's disease. And so I feel like there's a lot to be excited about in that, and a lot of reason for people with Parkinson's and their caregivers to stay involved and stay educated about what's going on. So these are, the first slide really is just a few pictures of the clinic. I have brochures in the back. My main message to you today is I want you to feel the excitement about what's going on in Parkinson's research, an understanding for you on how to be involved or engaged. And it doesn't necessarily mean you need to plunge headfirst into a very complicated study, although I have some that will share their experience on why they've done research. And then so that you'll know how to do that. That's really my hope, is that you'll know how to do something from here. And I think someone earlier said something about really trying to be your own advocate. And I think that's the last thing that I want you to feel, the importance of that. And I'll give you hopefully some resources so you can feel that way. Okay, so getting empowered through research. So he talked this morning about what a clinical trial is. It really is, they are required in order to have medications approved. Every medication that you take today has gone through many trials. It usually takes about 10 to 15 trials for a medication to be approved. At Quest in Farmington Hills, we were one of the highest enrolling sites for the Rytary program. Rytary took about 14 years to be approved start to finish. So if anyone's taking Rytary, you probably have hundreds of people locally here that helped with that data to get it approved and available for you. I think Dr. Ellenbogen spoke briefly about stages of research. So, you know, they start as an interesting chemical compound. What he calls bench research is literally scientists standing at a bench. That's what we actually mean when we say that. About 3 to 6 years of bench and animal research. And then when they feel like they have a medication that seems pretty safe and might provide benefit for a disease, it goes into clinical studies. And that's about 8 to 12 years. Nowadays, it seems like even longer. So phase 1s are small. They usually only do a couple of phase 1 trials. They're usually for safety and tolerability. Phase 2 really is starting to target disease. Usually they'll have 2 to 6 phase 2 trials. Phase 3, big. And that usually is they have a good idea that there is benefit. We're just trying to narrow down what the dosage should be, and what kind of population would best benefit for that. And then phase 4 is it's already approved, and we're just doing ongoing safety requirements, and the FDA requires that. Okay, so how does it work? Firstly, when you are presented with the opportunity for a clinical study, I would say I'd love it that your physician actually does this, but you'll find that the numbers last, I think we checked 4 or 5 years ago, it's only about 6% learn about a clinical study through their physician. So don't assume that your doctor knows the research going on. They're busy. Insurance alone, I'm sure, keeps the doctor up at night. So just trying to navigate a business is difficult work. So that's really one of those places where you need to advocate for yourself. So when you come in for a research study discussion, the first thing that really happens is an informed consent is presented to you. And the informed consent really is a document that we have approved at an independent ethics board. It is to tell you everything that's happening in the study, how many visits, what we're going to do, risks that we know about, risks that we don't know about, potential benefit, any costs that there might be for you, and any compensation. I will tell you at Quest, we really do a good job at ensuring that that a trial won't cost you anything. You don't pay for any labs, time with the physicians or the medical staff, and I think almost every study I have does have a stipend for every visit because it's a little bit of work to be in a trial. You can withdraw at any time. You work with the research team throughout the trial, and your role really is to try and thoroughly read this consent and understand, okay, I need to be here every 2 weeks. I'm going to do these procedures on these certain visits, and I'm going to see the doctor these certain visits, and I might need to keep a diary on how I felt after I took my medicine that morning, and that's your end of the commitment, and then our end is to do all the other parts of making sure you're safe and followed along in the trial, and so we can make a good assessment. So I'm not going to go through a lot of this because Dr. Ellenbogen talked a lot about off-time treatments, one of them being the levodopa pump, which I believe they're going to file this fall. And I think we had the first patient in the country on that study in 2016. So we've been working on that trial for 7 years, the levodopa pump. Long-acting dopamine agonists. Dopamine agonists would be like Requip or Mirapex if you're taking something like that. So they're making longer acting and more targeted agonists. And then I have a thanks in here for local Quest participants that helped on Rytary, Inbrija, or Kinmobi. You know, those are all approved now, and those all were trials that happened at Quest. The brainstem neuromodulation, that's basically sound in your ear. I have one now that has sound in your ear and some light flashing on the eyes. And it's really trying to trigger certain hormone production. It's very, very interesting. And then, of course, just like cancer, exploring all kinds of genetic variants, what somebody that has LRRK2, how's their Parkinson's maybe a little bit different, what are some treatments that we can have to target how they're different. And then other disease-modifying treatments. And when we say disease-modifying, today, all of the medications that are approved help symptoms. They don't help you produce more dopamine. They don't help heal the neurotransmitters. They help what you have remaining work better, okay? So much of the pipeline in Parkinson's treatments today are about disease modifying, meaning trying to slow progression, or what we hope is to be a cure, right? The more we slow it, the closer we get to actually feeling like we can cure Parkinson's disease. And we work really closely with the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and they have a Team Fox Detroit chapter in Detroit that is part of Team Fox, and they're like in the top 5 active chapters in the country. So you have a really good active community around you. You really do. Exploring treatments for neuroprotection. He talked about diabetic medications being used for that. There's even chemotherapy that they look at because it's about inflammation at the cellular level. And something about the gut. So in your belly and the intestines, they're looking at actual bacteria and how is it different in people with Parkinson's. And at first I was like, okay, why would we want to do that? But if you think about how someone says, this scared me and I was sick to my stomach, or I felt uncomfortable and anxious and I couldn't eat, you actually have a very strong nervous system connection between your brain and the gut. It is actually the second, it is the place that has the second most neurons is in the gut. So there's some scientific thinking out there that thinks, well, so we know gastric slowing, constipation's like one of the first, many times, symptoms of Parkinson's for people. So there's something definitely here that's bothering what's going on in the intestines, the whole gut area. Maybe there's treatments where we can do something in the reverse. I don't really know, but they're looking into it. Okay, so I really wanted to have today talking about participants. We've done surveys before. I mean, these are general feedback that we've heard for people that participate in research, reporting that you've learned something about yourself or about your Parkinson's, working with people that are specialists in the field, receiving a second opinion. You don't leave your current physician to be in a study. You're still with your current provider, and the study is secondary to that. And many patients want to tell their provider that they're in a trial. So you have access to another possible treatment, advancing medicine for your peers, and taking an active role in your health care. So I have, what do our research ambassadors say? And I'm fortunate enough to introduce to you some favorite people that I have that have been they've been in research studies at Quest, but also some other places. And so I'd like to introduce you to Glenn Schramm, Dan McEachen, Stephanie, who is a caregiver, lovely, right? Joe Staub, and Judy Nichols, thank you. I know there's a Y in there, and it kind of it trips me up sometimes. So what I wanted to do, Dan actually helped with some questions. I was like, well, I really would like to just throw out what their experience was, a little bit in introduction, but we would like to open that to you to see what you might want to know about their experience. So why don't we start with, Dan, why don't you start with why did you decide to get involved? Oh, hold on.
I had the privilege of help from my brother, who is a retired genetics researcher from U of M. And I had the personal connection to research that was a tremendous help to me. And that is what I am trying to carry forward to offer to you today, to take advantage of being here in person, to talk with us, to meet Dolly, and Taylor is in the back. And this is an opportunity for you to make a connection with a tremendous research organization. And I just don't want to take too much time answering, but that's what I'm trying to offer.
Joe, why did you get involved in research?
So I have,
Is it close enough? Just so you know, Joe told us right away, I don't like to talk in front of people. So I put him up here all the time.
I'm not talking in front of people, I'm talking to my community.
You are. This is your, that's right.
Right. So my dad had Parkinson's disease. My mother-in-law had Parkinson's disease. So we don't know if it's genetic or environmental or a combination of both. But my kids basically got it on both sides. So I was motivated to get involved with clinical research to try to prevent them having to go through what our parents and now their parents are going through.
So advocacy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
advocating.
Yeah.
The funny thing about it, the first time I went and screened for a clinical trial, I failed. I failed 3 times in a row. Finally, on the 4th time, they accepted me. And it's been, what's that?
It was disappointing.
It was very disappointing because
Yeah.
I wanted to contribute. I wanted to move the needle on the cure for the treatment for this drug or this disease. And I went in selfishly thinking about my kids, but I found out the benefit of it, and it personally motivated me. I've done
How many?
a lot,
Yeah,
10 or 12.
a lot.
10 or
Some
12.
fast, some longer, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I found that to be my purpose. It motivates me, it keeps me positive, gives me something to look forward to. I want to help our community. I don't necessarily believe it's going to help me, but it may help the next generation. So I'm doing this so other people don't have to go down the same path that we're going down.
Come on, Joe.
I would submit all of our advocates really have that, mindset. They really do. Judy, can you tell them a little bit about your experience? Because Judy was a first timer and plunged in head first. Why don't you tell them a little bit about your study and what motivated you to do that?
It was a 27 days, you had to stay there for 27 days.
That's very unusual. Just so you
Yeah.
know, that's very unusual.
My husband learned how to wash clothes while I was gone. I had the right directions. Anyway, it's nothing to be afraid of when you do these trials. They're they're a bunch of Einsteins there, let's just put it that way. And they know if something goes wrong, what to do, and everything else. And I believe it was a drug to, so your regular Parkinson medications last longer. The first days, I had to go through some tests, and then I think I got started the third day I was there, or the second day. And you're on a monitor and everything, and that is the last day I took my regular Parkinson pills. The pills that I was given were fabulous. It's like there was nothing wrong with me. I had energy. It was like I was never diagnosed, and I didn't take my pills at all for 24 days, just what I was given in the research.
And I would say that's unusual. Like
Yeah.
in some ways, many ways, Jude, that was lucky for Judy that she had that experience because it wasn't all perfect.
No.
I mean, she had some days where maybe some nausea. I mean, we had a lot of patients that had that.
Yeah.
So, but she's brave to me, and you met a good friend.
Yep, Kimmy.
She met a good friend. We really do try to, particularly if you decide to do a study where you're actually staying there. So we have a small inpatient unit. Many of our trials don't require that, and you just come in like a doctor's visit, but they're longer, and we're asking you a lot more questions about your Parkinson's. Your doctor does not run in and out. We're not running in and out in 20 minutes. It's very, but for the inpatient, we really try to have people also with Parkinson's, not necessarily the same study, but so you can kind of meet some people in your community to, study buddy, hang out with, because we find a lot of the caregivers are like, phew. Right?
Also, I'm like Joe, too many young people in their 20s and 30s are getting Parkinson's. And I don't have any Parkinson's in my family. And when I was told I had that, I knew something was wrong with me. I thought I had MS. And when she told me I had Parkinson's, I said, get out of here. I don't shake. And she says, you don't have to have a tremor to have Parkinson's. It's in my walking, my thinking. I had to retire. I have trouble spelling now, adding, subtracting, sometimes thinking of words. And then sometimes I'm still sharpened, It's just, people look at me and says, there's nothing wrong with you. They have no idea. It's not all.
Well, look at you, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more than just, tremor.
Stephanie, what surprised you most about research?
How much we didn't know about Parkinson's. I thought for sure with his dad for 10 years and then my mom for the next 10 years, we knew everything there was to know about Parkinson's. But taking part in the studies, I have learned so much about the disease that I never knew or was never told. Your doctors just don't have time to tell you all that. So it was just a very educational thing for me. And it makes me happy that he has a purpose, that he, has something that he's doing instead of just rolling over.
Feeling engaged, yeah, that's good. And I would agree, and that is really not throwing shade with neurologists and even our own. I think the same, I heard somebody up here say, if you've met one person with Parkinson's, you've met one person with Parkinson's. And I think, what they're meaning by that is everyone's Parkinson's is different. So a doctor can't sit down with you and say, so you have Parkinson's, here's a litany of things that you could experience, or you may not. You know what I mean? So, I think the conversations with your medical, practitioner, they're a little more focused on what you're bringing to that doctor's visit and asking about, and then you're hoping that they're making the best decision in their medical ability to prescribe and help you until the next time they see you. But it's not, it doesn't have the time that for an educational I mean, that's why you know, you should be feeling good about yourself being here to try and educate yourself, because I agree, there's so many, we're always learning all the time. And in the research that we're providing now, I mean, we're learning now genetics and very, very detailed and scientific stuff that's, you know, it's much more than tremor. And there's more to the non-motor symptoms, which is the motor symptoms has always been what people have focused on, right? Glenn, what does a cure mean to you?
It's changed for me over the course of my disease. I think originally it was, you know, let's stop the progression and let's you know, reverse course and feel good again, you know, and do like. You know. But as I've gone through it, I mean, I've realized that I've been able to maintain a certain level of functionality through like exercise and just, you know, my medication regimen. And now my daughter, who's 28 now, she's got Parkinson's. So she was diagnosed 2 years ago, and so it's changed now from me to her. And I think you know, my participation in research would continue far beyond what I've done to date.
Than selfish reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it was purely selfish reasons before. I wasn't going to participate in anything unless I was able to you know, notice some benefit from it. But I want research out there to help, you know, figure out what's going on for everybody else now. So.
I think that's something, right? Does anybody have any questions for them? Yes.
Is it one ad coming in TV and newspapers? People who are working in Mississippi, Kalamazoo, they used to live in the training during the army. They were infected with the polluted water. Is the cause of the Parkinson?
Well, there's a lot of possible causes.
Mississippi training suddenly disoriented and they discharged from duty. No penny was paid. Now I'm going to see Governor why my brother suffered last year and not paid penny.
Yeah.
They say go to trial, you will get benefit. Chances.
So it's not unusual. We have patients that think maybe Agent Orange might have triggered their Parkinson's. We've had patients that had a bad car accident and that triggered their Parkinson's, or had breast cancer and that triggered. So they do think there could be a traumatic experience that could trigger, you know, maybe an underlying risk for Parkinson's. He was young. I would say that doesn't preclude him from whatever the reason was that he may have triggered his Parkinson's, which could be what they call idiopathic, meaning we don't know why, right? That doesn't mean he wouldn't benefit from a trial. Of course. Right, of course. Yes.
At the end of a double blind, did you ever find out whether you got the placebo or the meds?
Who knows the answer?
So out of the trials that I've done, I know of one, whether I got the drug or the placebo. The other 10 I don't know anything about. The reason I know is because they had subsequent problems and they brought it to my attention to be aware of it.
So, you know, there's been a very, very big push at the FDA that pharmaceutical companies should be telling their participants what happened at the end of the study. And we do get the blinded reports when the study data is done. So even the pharmaceutical company is blinded from that until all the data has been analyzed. So it's years, okay? Since our trials are so early, I mean, we primarily do phase 1 and 2 trial work. It could be 6 years before we know whether they were or not. We have received approval before to find out, because in some of the studies, we're mixing it. So, you know, I can just go ask the pharmacist, particularly if it's because the patient wants to be, you know, the person wants to be in another study and he or she needs to know if that's exclusionary or not, or how long they have to wait.
You can only be in one study
treatment study, typically?
Not necessarily.
I'm currently
Dan?
in a treatment study at Quest, and I'm also in 3 long-term observational studies at U of M. But that's the distinction. Typically, they can't allow you to be into 2 treatment trials because it would confound the data.
I mean, it's for good reason, and it's really for your safety for the most part. And I think that for those that are not treatment studies, they try to be very gracious to allow you to be in a treatment study because they don't want to deny you possible treatment, possible benefit.
There's a hand over there.
Thank you. Yes? Who wants to tell?
So I'd say, like was mentioned with Dr. Ellen Bogan, you can find clinical trials on the Michael J. Fox Foundation website, clinicaltrials.gov. You could always reach out to Quest and have them put their name on the list.
That's right. So we have, so Quest is doing 6 to 8 Parkinson's trials at any given time. They're very, just to Joe's point, they're kind of for specific populations. So you may not be ready for a study for that, whatever the 6 or 8 I have, even though that sounds like a lot, and we probably have more Parkinson's research than most sites in the country. We really do, between Dr. Ellen Bogan and Dr. LeWitt. We do. Our clinic is in Farmington Hills. But so that's why we offer, that's why I started offering the overnight trials, really, is because we had people from the whole Midwest that were not having access to research, and it's more convenient for them to fly in for a screening visit and go home and come back for 10 days, right? And not the back and forth.
Well, I used to live in Michigan, now I live in Tennessee.
Yeah. So I have 2 studies that might be nice for you. So it's not restrictive. Of course, of course. So I would say if you haven't already, see Taylor at the back. I've got some brochures, okay? And then I have several patient advocates when you call, and they can, what I like to do is we like to find out a little bit about you. I'm taking Cinemet or I'm not, years of diagnosis, because that helps us kind of narrow down what trials may be of interest and might be a fit. Instead of reading to you 8 trials, we'll try to narrow that down. That's really how that goes. And then I send out usually a newsletter once a month maybe that says a new trial opening or whatever. Let's see, yes.
So I wanted to, we talk about the clinical trials. I've had the clinical trial that was show up and have 1 vial of blood drawn. I've had other clinical trials that have lasted 8 months. I, like Judy, have spent a month inside Quest. So Quest has got suites that are comfortable. There's high-speed internet. There's television. There's bathroom and shower. You've got everything you need. It's very comfortable.
Thank you.
And the other thing, you will not find a better, more caring, understanding group of people than the people that work at Quest. They understand what it is to have Parkinson's. They understand what the symptoms are. They follow the guidelines of the clinical study, but they also keep our best interests in mind.
I want to second what Joe just said. My experience is that Quest Research Institute is an extraordinary organization because of the people involved. And it's great pleasure and honor to be associated with them.
Thank you. Humbling, really. I feel like that's partly why we get good trials. It's really, they feed each other, right? Let's see. I'd like each of you to comment on benefits you've gotten from being in research, if you haven't already. Glenn, you want to start? I asked you a hard question the first time.
Well,
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I made notes on this one. I have some notes on this one.
Good, good.
So, the first couple trials that I was on were for extended release Cinemet or carbidopa levodopa, and in both cases I was able to go into the open label period, which is when you're provided for like a certain period of time. You get free. They pay for your medication, either your existing medication or the trial medication. In both cases, as I went through the trial period, I felt that the medication was doing me a great benefit. So I thought, so I ended up getting 12 months on the first medication that I was on, 12 months of free extended release, and it was awesome.
Was that the accordion?
That was the accordion.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Accordion
So
pill,
he was at
yeah.
Henry Ford, right?
Yeah, I did it at Henry Ford
with
under
Dr.
Dr.
Lewitt.
Lewitt.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was unfortunately that one came back a few months later and said that they had to like throw away the study because some outfit in some third world country was not protecting their data properly or something.
Yeah, the data wasn't good.
Yeah. So,
Correct.
But that's one major benefit for me was in both those trials that I had extended release. It gave me an extra 9 months of feeling good for like a lot longer than I was. I was able to double my.
Right. So we didn't really talk about that. That's a good point. So he was in a trial. He's mentioned open label, and for those that don't know what that means, so if several of our studies, you are in a blinded portion, and that's placebo controlled. Those two things are kind of synonymous for us in the trial world. So it doesn't mean it's 1-to-1 placebo to drug. It could be 2 doses of drug and 1 placebo, so it could be 33% risk. Many times as a benefit for people that participate, once a person has gotten through this blinded portion and they receive the data that they need in order to assess if it's effective or not and safe, they will offer an open label period where everyone gets drug. And the reason we call it open label is we know what you're getting, you know what you're getting, so it's an open label. And it was 9 months or a year?
One was a year,
1 year.
And one was 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 year, and it was an interesting study too, because we call it the accordion because it was the accordion pill. The pill was in a
Large capsule.
thank you. Inside was a little piece of paper that's coated with levodopa, and it's squashed up like an accordion. And so you swallow the capsule dissolved, the accordion slowly opened up and revealed the levodopa. And did you take it twice a day, maybe?
No more. It was similar to like the hereditary.
Okay, all right. So, but it was an extended release.
Yes.
Of levodopa.
Yeah, I think I went from like 2 to 4 hours of regular cinema to with the
3
extended
times a
release
day.
it was like double that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it worked very well. But
It did. So the problem was some patients can be naughty. They were opening up the pill to see what was in it.
I wasn't one of them.
So anyway, the FDA was concerned about the data because then there was a control problem. And then I believe actually in another country it was something separate. But
Yeah.
anyway, but that could come back. I mean, because the data's failed doesn't mean it's bad tech. That's kind of bad technology. That doesn't mean that it's a bad, in the end, a bad delivery,
And it was a low risk because it was cinema, basically.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing chemically different about it. It was
That's
just
right.
The delivery system was something unique.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is you get knowledge, just pure knowledge. Participating in these trials is fabulous to you get yourself immersed into the process of things, and you understand a lot more about what's going on, and you're exposed to things, and it's just the more knowledge is power, and the more knowledge you have of things, the better off you're going to be.
True. That is true. And it is, not only is the placebo really, Dr. Lewitt would say it's the right price, and it actually works pretty well.
Yeah.
35% respond. But it is also, it's a frame of mind. I mean, that's your body kind of being positive about treatment, right? Okay. Benefits you've gotten from being part of research, Dan or Joe? I mean, anyone else want to comment? Go ahead.
I'll pass. You're up.
Just the education. The education is knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to see a neurologist 3 times as much as we normally would. Different neurologists, different sets of eyes. It's just, It's a great benefit.
Judy?
Well, actually, I'm doing a trial right now. It's an 8-month one. Take one pill, 10 o'clock in the morning. It's a blind study. But I do feel different.
Do you?
Yeah. But
I'm not a
we'll see.
clinician, so don't worry. She
I
can
know.
tell me that.
It's just more research, more knowing more. You can't have people in their 20s and 30s getting this. They'll end up like, if we'd have done trials 29 years ago, Michael J. Fox wouldn't be in the shape he is in now.
Right.
You know, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. I agree. Some of that is better diagnosis, right? We're seeing that. Some of that's better diagnosis, but sure. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Did any of the trials lead to a successful drug or procedure that in your practice?
So one of the trials I did was a drug that was approved in Europe and needed to go through the FDA approval process here. Less rigorous than a blank sheet of paper drug. So it ultimately was approved here, but it wasn't a full clinical trial. I've been doing trials for 5 years, so not long enough for a drug to go the entire route.
I participated in the IPX 203, which was it's the next version of Rytary, basically.
Yeah, Dr. Ellen Bogan, I think.
And that
talked
one
about it
went
this
to
morning.
FDA approval. I think they just submitted it recently.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm not sure it is in the process of actually getting approved, but it's above. It's in the FDA's hands, I believe.
Dan?
Quest is nationally recognized for doing phase 1 trials. And that is a crucial role that they play, but that results in the long-term view of getting results. If a phase 1 is successful, it has to go through phase 2 and 3 before it comes to the market.
But it's also important to note that if a drug doesn't make it that far, that's a good thing too. They've learned a lot from that also.
That is right.
It's not for naught, for sure.
That is right. They learn a lot from failures. And many times what we'll see is that they can either tweak the technology. That's obviously the first thing that we think about is like, make the medicine do something a little bit different. The second, though, because sometimes they make the wrong guess on the dosing, okay? The second thing we found, though, too, as their data analysis has gotten better, they're able to better target people that, so if they looked at 800 people, we have a study now that Roche has been working on, they look at 800 people, it doesn't meet its endpoint. The endpoint was, and they picked that ahead of time. The endpoint is a goal they pick ahead of time. They want improvement in the UPDRS motor score of, let's say, 30%. However, when they narrowed down people that were diagnosed between 3 and 6 years, it was very effective. 0 to 2 years, hard to tell. Didn't have enough people in there. And the 3 to 6 didn't have enough people really to say statistically significant. So they're redoing the study with just narrowing down. So you learn. I mean, we learn in all of them. We absolutely do. Yeah. Pardon me? That's right. Yes. Well, they still require, Glenn said, don't have third world countries participate. There is problems with some countries that aren't as stringent. The FDA does still require that trials be done in the United States with Americans. Yes. What was that? Is there what? Of course, always. Taylor's in the back. We, like I said earlier, we're looking for all phases. We have trials for people that are newly diagnosed between 0 and 3 years. Some trial, I think I have one, you can't even have started Cinemet yet. So it's, you know, those are hard trials to get done because many people that are newly diagnosed, they need to think about things for a little while. They're not quite plugged into something like this. They're not really educated yet about the research process. You know, by the time they finally are having motor symptoms that they feel like they need treatment, they bypass and go to a neurologist. They're assuming their neurologist is going to tell them about a trial. I just told you only 7% of people learn that there. So those are hard trials to get done. So we try very hard to communicate, like we work with folks at Rocksteady and the PMC and, you know, therapists that meet people with Parkinson's early to remind them to also consider research too. But we also, all the way until, you know, I mean, we have people that have had Parkinson's a very long time that are in trials, for sure. Good, good, yeah. Go back, she's ready. And you know, if nothing else, just be in the research. We'll call you sometime next week, just find out more about you. You're welcome to come and look at the clinic if you'd like. You know, any conversation, there's no cost to you to participate in a trial. You don't need insurance. It is completely separate. You really do become a number, so you don't have to worry about, like, you know, my insurance is going to know, or you really become a number. You're anonymized. That's really for your protection, and to you know, remove any bias in the data collection. Yeah.
What kind of genres of cures does Quest look at? Prescriptions, surgical procedures, auxiliary?
Everything, yeah. So we don't do, I'm not doing quality of life devices because our clinic is so specialized that those don't require the FDA approval process. So we really look at the FDA approval process for device and pharmaceuticals. So I do treatments though, stem cell, gene therapy, oral, IV. We have one that's an intrathecal treatment. And then we partner with Henry Ford. We're partnering with Dr. Schwalb. If you stayed in earlier and listened to his presentation about the gene therapy trial, I mean, that's really for people that are ready for DBS because they've already kind of gone through the other pieces and they think that DBS might be their best solution. And we will partner with them. So we'll recruit patients, we'll screen them at our site, they'll see our neurologists, they'll go to Henry Ford for the surgery, and then they'll come back to us and we'll do the ongoing maintenance visits. So how long did he say? 5 years, right? I think he did. It's long.
Are you doing any gut biome?
So I had a gut biome study and they didn't get their funding. I'm sure we're going to. There's enough buzz around right now on it. Here's the thing about gut biome. Pharmaceutical companies are interested in it if they can create a medication. Gut biome right now is still at like, is there something there? You know, how do we measure that? The trial that I had actually was testing people's gut biome by fecal sample that you mailed in, and it was a person with Parkinson's, someone they lived with, and then a relative that they didn't live with. And if you think about it, it's because they want to say, the person you lived with, let's see, is the gut biome because of, you know, you're both on a crazy diet, you eat a lot of oranges, whatever, and then the relative of the person with Parkinson's, or is the gut, are your bacteria similar to theirs and it's not around food? So I do believe there's going to be something with that because there's a lot of philosophy that there could be treatment. There could be treatment with that. Yes. I don't see.
Right there.
Oh, thank you, sorry.
Does anyone do research on non-pharmaceutical things such as vitamins and supplements and all the stuff that everyone's trying to sell you?
We are doing the neuromodulation trial. That's not a pharmaceutical. We were doing an exercise app trial. We do them at Quest because we feel like we should. We feel like we're offering everything. We should be offering things that are not a treatment because we feel like we should. There's just not that many. There's just not that many. No pharmaceutical company is going to make a lot by selling super B6 vitamins, you know, for those types. Now, I will tell you, there's plenty of trials done at academic centers. And yes, I mean, the NIH and academic centers would do trials like that, you know, approved A plus approved B, you know, just like they do for cancer. I do have a trial that I want to share that is done at the U, and the kids over there, you may talk to them after. They have a study in Parkinson's disease of exercise. It's a phase 3, and they're seeking volunteers, and they're looking at the effects of aerobic exercise on people with Parkinson's. It's a treadmill exercise program. I know that a lot of folks with Parkinson's are way into exercise, so maybe that would be a good first step for you too, if you're not ready to take a bigger step. And they're there if you want to talk to them after.
There's an
Question.
Yes. All the time. Yes, all the time. So we do research for essential tremor, and was anybody, oh, well, if you're comfortable sharing, was anybody misdiagnosed?
No.
No. They nailed it. So they say an internal medicine doctor can miss Parkinson's about 70 to 80% of the time. A neurologist can miss Parkinson's about 80 to 90% of the time. Like, and even a movement disorder specialist can maybe not get it about 5% of the time. And that's partly because there's like the super Parkinson's syndromes like MSA and PSP, you know, Lewy body disease. But yes, what we tend to find most is we do an ad for essential tremor, and someone comes in because they think it's just the tremor, and you know, one of our physicians picks up that they think there's other things going on, stiffness, right? I mean, you know the signs. So, so yes. Pardon me? What did they suggest? I think usually what they would say is, this is my suspicion. They find out who they're talking to. They might refer to if they're seeing an internal medicine doctor, then they might refer to a neurologist or, you know, refer to somebody. Only time I can comment on that would be we thought it was Parkinson's, and it ends up being something like MSA. And that's because those two things look very similar in the beginning. And it's usually the movement disorder specialist says, yeah, I want to, you know, the progression is just a little bit unusual. It's more like an MSA progression. Any more questions for the panel?
I have a question.
Yes.
So mine's more as a caregiver. I have some fears about clinical research for my husband. So Stephanie, what was your thought when your husband first said, I want to do this?
It's very scary, but it's not an experimental drug. You're not going to a different country, you know, a third world to get something that you can't get here. They are learning about the disease. And I guess the benefit outweighs the risk. It is scary, and every time he goes, it's scary. And especially if he spends the night, I don't like to be home alone. But I can see the benefit in him. I see the emphasis, you know, it just makes him feel better. And it makes me feel better too that he's doing something. We watch two people we love deteriorate from it. So we're not going to just sit back and let that keep happening.
Besides, she told me to go.
It was my idea. I read about it and thought,
Actually, I was misdiagnosed. When I went to my primary care doctor, she told me I had frontal lobe dementia.